Alright, so I have a problem that is actually happening on one of my own personal servers. I have a plugin on this server that allows the players that have the permissions to use their hammer to pick up vehicles in game and have it brought into their inventory. It looks a little bit something like this. So as you can see, that motorbike is now in my inventory and I could redeploy it just like so. But I have found several different instances where that doesn't actually function the way that it's supposed to. For example, sometimes if that item, whatever it happens to be, whatever that vehicle is, might need repairs, the plugin gets confused whether it should be allowing the repairs to take place or whether you're trying to pick that item up. And I've had a couple of instances where players actually weren't able to pick up their items no matter what they did. They took the fuel out, they took the ammo out, they took everything out so that it was just the vehicle sitting in front of them. And it definitely was their vehicle, but they still weren't able to pick it up and put it in their inventory. So now, while that system still really is important to how I have things set up on this specific server, I had to come up with a different solution. A better solution. So to that end, let me introduce you to VirtualGarage. Hey everybody, welcome back to Rust Admin Academy, where I'm teaching you everything that you need to know about owning and operating a successful Rust server. On this channel, I do plugin reviews and tutorials, plus I want to give you all of those little tips and tricks that are going to help you be more successful in building your Rust community. So if you're brand new to the channel, consider subscribing so that you stay up to date on everything that we're working on. And of course, you'll get notified as soon as I upload a new video. If you want to help what I'm doing at Rust Admin Academy, you can hit me up at SRTBULL.com. Click on join in the top right hand corner and become a member today. I'm constantly adding new features to this system, so it's getting better and better every day that passes. Two really quick examples of what I've added at Rust Admin Academy Premium is the free list of tools available from SRTBULL.com. Plus I've started adding a catalog of deals that is exclusively available only to Rust Admin Academy Premium members. So check it out if you're interested. So like I said at the beginning, I was just looking for a different / better way of dealing with vehicles that players can actually save and redeploy whenever they desire. Specifically on vanilla servers or low gather rate servers where it might be a little bit challenging to get that 750 scrap that's required to buy a mini helicopter. Once you've finally gotten one of those minis, you want to do everything you can to hang on to it, which means you can't leave it out and let it decay, and you definitely don't want to let somebody steal it. So this is where VirtualGarage comes into play. So what VirtualGarage does is it allows us to collect our vehicles into a virtual garage from which we can deploy those vehicles later. While the vehicle is in the garage, it doesn't decay, nobody can steal it. You know your vehicle is going to be there when you need it. VirtualGarage is only available from gameforfreak.io. I've put a link to it in the video description down below, and it is a premium plugin, so you of course can use my promo code SRTBULL to save yourself a couple of bucks. The doc page on gameforfreak.io has a lot of really great pictures showing you what it's going to look like, an extensive list of features showing you why I think this is a great plugin, and I think a lot of people are going to think so too, the all-important permissions section, and then of course we've got the commands. We're going to see all of this taking place on my real live server, but just remember that all of this information is readily available. You can go check it out right now if you want to. So VirtualGarage is protected by permissions, so you can set it up so that not everybody on your server has access to it if you want to have it that way. This would be a great little feature for VIPs or Discord supporters or whatever you decide. You can also have this set up so that everybody on your server has access to it. So let's bring up our permissions menu. Today we're going to be using admin menu by chaos code. Let's go into the permissions section and let's do this by group. And I want to be granting this functionality to my default group. This isn't a VIP feature in this specific instance. And we can sort this list by name. So let's click on the V, and there we have the permissions for VirtualGarage. So as you can see here, my default group has the virtualgarage.use permission granted to it. And if we go back into the admin section, you're going to see that the admin permission is granted there. Now you might be wondering why the admin permission there. Well, what the admin permission does is it allows whoever has that permission granted to them the ability to see somebody else's garage in a read-only type scenario. So by using the command garage.view and then a player's name, we can see what's actually in their garage. We can't do anything with it, but we can see it. So first things first, let's just see how this actually functions in a real world application. So let's do /garage in chat and bring up the UI. So as you can see here, it brings up this really great looking UI, and it's telling us everything that we need to know about our own personal virtual garage. So if we walk over to the scrap transport heli, you can see that it says what it is that we're looking at. And if we want to, we can click on store vehicle, Bam, there you go. Now this item is in your virtual garage. Now you may have noticed something when we were looking at my virtual garage. There was a button there that I didn't explain while we were in there, but let me show you something real quick and I'll explain why that's there. So if we go over to this rowboat right here, and as you well know, there is a storage container in it. Let's put a little bit of high quality metal ore in there. Let's bring up our virtual garage again and let's store this rowboat. So now that we've stored that rowboat, we can click on this button right here that looks like a box, and we can see that the 8 high quality metal ore that I put in that storage container is now inside this storage container inside of our virtual garage. Do with that information what you will. If we decided that we need to have that vehicle back out of our virtual garage, we obviously click on spawn vehicle, or if we just want to get rid of it altogether, we can click on the delete button right here. So I do really like the amount of information that we get from the UI from Virtual Garage. We can see the vehicles that we have in there. We can see which ones need repair. We can see which ones need fuel, and we can also see which ones have items inside their storage containers. I also really like that it's categorized, that we've got 2 air vehicles. We've got 1 water vehicle. If we brought in this catapult right here, we of course would have a siege vehicle on this list as well. I like that it's categorized that way. Is it necessary? Absolutely not, but I think it looks really good, and the more information we have, the better. Now, of course, you might be wondering about the limitations of the plugin Virtual Garage. Everything is 100% configurable in the configuration file. And this, of course, is where we configure how every aspect of Virtual Garage is going to function. Default capacities, we can change up the colors, we can change what the UI looks like, we can mess around with just about everything. As you well know by now, I love it when server owners will customize anything and everything they can to match their community or their Rust servers colors and feel and design. Changing text and changing colors to match your community's colors is huge. We can limit how many vehicles can be in each person's garage, and then of course a breakdown of which one of those vehicles they can have more or less of. Obviously, as you can see right here, -1 means that it's unlimited. You can have as many water vehicles as you want and as many air vehicles as you want, up to a maximum of 4 in total. If we wanted our players to only be able to have 1 air vehicle and perhaps 2 land vehicles, we can change those parameters right here. We of course have a VIP section where we can change those parameters so that our VIPs, the people that support our Rust community, can have an added benefit too. And then of course, most of the rest of the configuration file is the types of vehicles that players can put in their virtual garage. If you see something on this list that you don't want your players to be able to store in their virtual garage, simply remove it from the configuration file right here. Of course, if there's something that isn't on this list that you want to add it in there, you certainly can do that. Just make sure that it follows this syntax exactly. Just make sure you get the naming and the categorizations correct. At the very bottom of the configuration file, this is a really important section. This is definitely something that I want you to look at if you're putting Virtual Garage on your server. It gives you the ability to adjust the nitty-gritty details of how Virtual Garage is going to function on your server. And each one of these lines is incredibly important. By default, for the most part, everything is fine. You can leave it this way, but I need you to know that that functionality is there. So for example, if you're using Better No Escape, which I am on this server, do we want to prevent people from being able to store their vehicles or to deploy their vehicles while they're raid blocked or combat blocked? By default, this is set to false. On my server specifically, I am going to be changing this to true so that if players are raid blocked or combat blocked, they can't add any vehicles to their virtual garage and they can't deploy any vehicles from their virtual garage. Another really important feature down at the bottom of this config is the ability to block the access to the virtual garage while in a building blocked area. By default, these are both set to true, and I highly suggest that for most cases you leave this set to true. What you would be doing here if you change both of these to false is if somebody were in the middle of a raid, or if they just happened to cross somebody's base that had a mini copter sitting on the roof or outside or whatever, if these are set to false, anybody would be able to walk up to that mini with their virtual garage open and steal that mini and put it into their own virtual garage. So maybe in a more aggressive style server, that might work, but I think for the most part you're going to want to leave this set to true. So now one important thing that I absolutely have to do for this server specifically is to block the ability to put the rideable horses into your virtual garage. So heading over to this horse right here, it's already removed from virtual garage, so I don't actually have to do anything. But the reasoning for that is because I still want to be able to grab this horse and put it in my inventory so I can put it in my automatic dung box and let that horse create dung into all eternity so I can fertilize initialize my fields, and everything is hunky dunky. So I thought I was going to have to remove the horse from the virtual garage so that I could still use it with that old system that I was using before. Turns out it wasn't there to begin with, which is great. One of the things that I absolutely despise about any UI that is built for Rust is this, the ability to move around and still have that UI up on your screen. And you naturally want to hit escape to get out of that UI, and of course that doesn't work. But why this is important for this specific plugin, we need to be able to move around so that we can adjust which vehicle is in our sights to be added to our virtual garage. So while that might be annoying to most people, including myself, I understand why this is a necessary evil, so this isn't a complaint. I'm just letting you know that that is how this UI functions, and yes, you do have to go in and physically click on this X button in order to get the virtual garage off your screen. It's a necessary evil. I've made my peace with it. Hopefully you will too. All right, so that is Virtual Garage. It's available from the gameforfreak.io website. My promo code SRTBULL does work on this plugin, so make sure you use that to save yourself a couple of bucks. And I did talk about the Better No Escape plugin, which is also available from the same location, and I've already done a video on it, and I want you to check out why I think everyone should be switching to Better No Escape. So check out that video on the left-hand side of your screen right now. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you again next week.